All right. Good evening and good night, and welcome to the It's Your Perspective Talk Show. It is Thursday, March 3rd, 2016. My name is David, a.k.a. Kimba, a.k.a. Christian, alongside
Bingy Soup.
Yeah, Soup. We are back.
Live and direct.
That's how it goes, man. This is the It's Your Perspective Talk Show every Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, 8 p.m. until. We do have a telephone number, 340-201-9005. You can also text us on that number as well. But most importantly, you have to go to our website, streaming live from the VI.com. Go to our website right now. Click on Watch Us Live on the top there, and you'll be able to see the show tonight. And as Soup likes to say, tell a friend, tell a neighbor to jump on our website, because we do have a very long-time guest. Is back in the studio again. But moving on here real quick, we do have email, streaming live from the VI at yahoo.com. Send us an email. Send us a text, give us a call, questions, comments for our guest tonight. As our guest knows, we are in a high-tech, low-tech studio coming to you from an undisclosed location here, St. Croix, Virgin Islands. No radio, no TV, internet only.
Only.
You got to get your Android, your iOS phone, your iPad, your tablet, your Mac or Windows computer. Just open up your browser, Safari, Firefox, IE. Type in streaming live from the VI.com and you'll be able to see the show tonight. All our recorded live shows are on YouTube and Ustream.tv. Our channel is called It's Your Perspective Talk Show. Take a look at all our past shows. What else we got, man? I want to give a shout out to CHS Class of 1982. That's the year that Soup and I are representing. Big ups to that whole group. Hit us up. Let us know how you're doing, where you're at, what's good. But most importantly, we'd like to thank all our past guests for being on our show. Thank you so much. We're on Twitter as well, VI Perspective. Tweet with us. We're moving straight forward and up. The show's mission is just to inform, entertain, and empower everyone. And Soup, you ready?
Yes, my brother.
Soup is continuing on with some speeches from His Majesty.
Yes, I.
Rastafari, blaze it up.
Rain. Greetings to one and all. Hope everyone had a blessed day and even a greater night. As Kimba alluded to, this is the week that March 1st is the celebration, the victory of the Battle of Ottawa of Ethiopia over the Italians trying to invade Ethiopia, 1896. So it's about 120 years now, and we still have to let the world keep it present into the world mind and let them know that we don't forget, we remember. And that was a great victory because that was the first time since the African nation defeated a European nation during the colonial era. So that was very significant for us. So I'm going to read a speech from His Majesty and the Bible. Greetings to one and all in the name of Kidamahabu Empire Selassie the First. Jah Rastafari. We in Ethiopia have one of the oldest versions of the Bible. But however old versions may be, in whatever language it may be written, the word remains one and the same. It transcends all boundaries of empires and all expectations and all conceptions of race. It is eternal. No doubt you all remember reading in the Acts of the Apostles how Philip baptized the Ethiopian official. He is the first Ethiopian on record to have followed Christ, and from that day onward the word of Jah has continued to grow in the hearts of Ethiopians. I might say for myself that from early childhood I was taught to appreciate the Bible, and my love for it has increased with the passage of time. And through all troubles I have found it a cause of infinite comfort. Come unto I, all you that labor and are heavy laden, and I will give you rest. Who can resist an invitation so full of compassion? Because of this personal experience in the goodness of the Bible, I have resolved all my countrymen should also share in the great blessings that the reading of the Bible, that they should find truth for themselves. Therefore, I caused a new translation to be made from the ancient language into the language where the old and the young understood and spoke. Today, man sees all his hopes and aspirations crumbling before him. He is perplexed and knows not what whether he is drifting. But he must realize that the Bible is his refuge and the rallying point for all humanity. In it, man will find a solution for his present difficulties and guidance of his future action. And unless he accepts with clear conscience of the Bible and its great message, he cannot hope for salvation. For my part, I glory in the Bible. Words of Kedamawi and Haile Selassie the First. Jah Rastafari. Yes, sir.
All right, Soup, thanks for that, man.
Yes, sir.
Thanks for that for sure, man. All right, so as promised, we do have a very, very special guest in the studio tonight. Author Gary James is here. He's been with us from the very beginning, back in April of 2014, and he's back continuing on here. Conversations with Gary James, man. So how you doing, Gary?
Excellent, my brother. Looking forward to celebrating my second year come next month.
Okay. That's it.
So I'm feeling quite at home these days.
Yes, sir.
You know, breaking into this cutting edge operation you brothers built here.
And it's been an
And
honor.
I'm glad to be a part of it.
And it's been an honor to have you to grace us with your presence. You know?
God, Soup.
Yes, sir.
So what you got for us today, Gary? Anything exciting, interesting?
Well, everything these days is exciting and entertainment regarding the politics of the day.
Yes, sir.
Whether we're talking about the United States of America or here in the beautiful Virgin Islands, politics has indeed taken center stage. And so I want to say good evening to everyone and welcome to Conversations with Gary James, streaming live and direct from an undisclosed location.
That's right.
Here in the beautiful Virgin Islands.
Yes, sir.
So we're going to continue the conversation that's raging in America and in fact the world regarding the presidential nomination political spectacle. Because that's what's surely going on. And there is a high entertainment quality associated with this nomination process. And it extends to each political party, along with cross-party machinations. So the entertainment quality of the politics of the day is very high. In fact, I just bought some more popcorn because I know we've only just begun. We're not even halfway through the process. But presidential politics should be more serious than it is entertaining. But the entertainment quotient has really eclipsed the seriousness of this important event. Our only conclusion is that presidential politics has run amok. Therefore, going forward, there are no good outcomes in the immediate future. The obvious political dysfunction is bipartisan, in fact. However, the fact that both political parties are currently undergoing a cathartic dynamic, if not a civil war, The objective political facts on the ground make a persuasive argument that the Democrats as well as the Republicans need a political renewal. However, the political advent of Donald Trump has thrust the Republican Party into center stage. At center stage, the GOP and presidential nomination politics provide much fodder for the media infotainment news manufacturing process. So apart from the political machinations within both parties and the candidates' respective juxtapositions in this very colorful nomination process, the media manufactures its own center of gravity as it impacts on party politics for good or bad. And it seems to be much more bad than good. In fact, I haven't seen any good, except that good and blessings generally come in elaborate disguises. And sometimes these elaborate disguises appear as dread, darkness. And so perhaps we're in the state of a disguised blessing, hopefully. So, to begin our conversation on U.S. politics run amok, we explore David Trump and the GOP, and then we'll transition to Democratic Party politics vis-a-vis Clinton and Senator Sanders. In summary, though, both political parties are in a state of civil war in our considered judgment. Trump continues to dominate the political narrative and media coverage. Therefore, Trump's campaign, as well as the Republican Party, is the primary target of our conversation of U.S. politics this evening. The speech by Governor Romney this morning targeting Donald Trump is official confirmation that the Republican Party establishment, as well as members of the social conservative wing of the party, has initiated a full court press in a concerted Stop Trump effort. And it's really going to get hot because he hasn't responded yet. But for sure, he will be responding, and I know there's, of course, a debate tonight. But Trump has not responded to Romney's frontal attack. But surely a high-profile Trump response is anticipated in the immediate future. We're aware of Donald Trump as a fellow New York resident, and his colorful and controversial public life speaks volumes for itself. Trump and I are in the same generation, and I know of him over the decades. although I don't know him personally, as we never met. I do remember, however, Trump's father, Mr. Fred Trump, because from 1963 to 1968, I was gainfully employed at a major insurance company in the capacity of a liability claims adjuster and investigator. And Mr. Fred Trump's companies were among the companies in construction and real estate that my employer insured. Therefore, I'm acquainted with the Trump real estate and construction companies that comprise the foundation of Trump Sr., his fortune. Likewise, as I worked in the field in New York City as my day gig, the public behavior of the maturing Donald Trump did not elude me. I saw most of it. The current incarnation of Trump as a political phenomenon is but an extension of his personal dynamic, which is well known in the world of business, economics, and now politics. In addition, Trump enjoys a history and legacy as a raconteur and bon vivant. And his entry into politics is a model of that history and legacy. And he's got it rolling. Trump's recent caucus and primary election victories on Super Tuesday puts his campaign on a victorious trajectory for the GOP nomination. And that is what seems to be the problem. At the same time, the Republican Party establishment, among other components in the party, are pulling out all stops to politically undermine a Trump nomination victory. The public political juxtaposition between Trump and the Republican Party establishment and is an example of the current civil war underway in the grand old party. In addition, there are other political role players that complicate the situation. A closer examination of Donald Trump will occur in graphic detail going forward that will inform, if not animate us. Therefore, we'll look at the Republican Party in the context of how it has deteriorated over the decades into a fringe political ideology. While the GOP has been able to survive competitively in presidential elections for the past 40 years, despite the numerical disadvantage and its narrowing political bandwidth, the changing demographic in the country will inevitably change the color of America from majority white to majority minority. Therefore, there is an organic dynamic underway transforming the minority population to majority population. which is politically incompatible with policy positions, social political sensibilities, etc. of the Republican Party, such as it is. The GOP and the social conservative wing of the party, as they currently exist, is irrelevant to the political sensibilities of the emerging majority minority. So now, on one hand, we have a GOP establishment that cannot accommodate the inevitable emerging dynamic because of its ideological history. On the other hand, we have the social conservative wing of the GOP, a minority, at war with the establishment majority for control. This is the nature of the current war within the Republican Party, and that war has been underway in presidential politics since 1964. When Senator Barry Goldwater, GOP social conservative, challenged liberal President Lyndon Johnson. The current events are only a reiteration of an ongoing internal dynamic that remains as a political subtext, or in some instances, a political ruse to disguise a clandestine political agenda. The social conservative movement in the Republican Party actually began as a political reaction on the part of Blue Dog Democrats. Those are social conservative Democrats, to the advances of civil rights initiatives in the party that were being championed by liberals. So there was a juxtaposition in the Democratic Party in the 60s, during the 60s, which was a main portion of the civil rights movement. There was this conflict within the Democratic Party that pitted liberals against the controlling Southern Dixiecrats, whose reputation surely preceded them. The Blue Dog Democrats, after civil rights, bolted the party and infiltrated the Republican Party, many of them, and that began the social conservative movement in the GOP. Note, by way of the grassroots energy, political energy of the civil rights activists, Black Power, and students movement, the liberal progressive wing of the Democrat Party, with the help of these others, took control from the social conservative Blue Dog Democrats who ran the party. And so since then, the Democrat Party has been liberal and progressive. The fact that the liberal progressive wing of the Democratic Party successfully wrested control from the entrenched Southern social conservative control of the party is perhaps one of the most, if not the most, important stories that is not mentioned in the romantic rendition of the civil rights movement. At any rate, after 4 decades, the social conservative wing of the party has become consequential in Republican presidential politics, and they are running amok. The social conservative wing of the GOP has proven very successful at the state and local levels and has successfully gained target state houses, and currently social conservatives are well positioned in the U.S. Senate and House of Representatives, wherein the GOP presently holds the majority. They've, over the years, constricted the party by culling stalwart and historical African American and Hispanic support, and they have fostered a bigoted political environment which has ultimately isolated the party where it is now. Apart from isolating the party politically from the inevitable demographic of the country, social conservatives, by way of the Tea Party, seem to be preoccupied with challenging the Republican Party establishment for control. Somehow, it appears that the social conservative wing of the party are not capable of doing political math. If they were making mathematical political calculations, they would see the futility in their political position because it's absolutely unsustainable. The numbers prove that it has no future. They have no future in terms of their political positions. Between the internal political juxtaposition of the Tea Party and the GOP establishment, the billionaire tycoon, reality TV celebrity, and master media manipulator David Trump entered the political sweepstakes to compete for POTUS, the President of the United States. He came through a void, but he was a billionaire tycoon white cat, which made things relatively easy. Trump obviously caught competing elements in the GOP with their pants down. And they have been following Trump's lead ever since he entered the race. While the GOP stakeholders are fumbling in the wake of Trump, Trump has simultaneously outclassed his competitors for the nomination. Currently, a Trump victory looks like a foregone conclusion. But we've been around long enough to have witnessed electoral politics at its best and electoral politics at its worst. So it remains to be seen how this will ultimately shake out, but doubtful that there are any good outcomes. Therefore, electoral politics can be seen as very tricky and unpredictable. At the end of the day, the nominee may be determined by technical fiat or the Supreme Court. However, whether the ultimate outcome is however, whatever the ultimate outcome, the Republican Party, as it is popularly known, will change. The party will need to negotiate and navigate its way out of this politically precarious position, and the future of the party is not foreseeable. But the nomination process is not yet halfway complete. Therefore, we have a long way to go. We'll continue to engage this conversation about the GOP going forward. We'll continue to offer our assessment, critique, and political analysis of the Republican Party from our unique perspective. But I want to digress briefly, because by mentioning Trump's father, Fred, I recall experiences during my tenure as a young man employed as an insurance liability claims adjuster and investigator. This period in the 1960s was formidable and consequential to my maturity. During 1965, I developed a moral conflict with my employment situation because I began to be self-conscious of the work that I was doing. I want to share this story because it's the subtext of my motivation to become a community political organizer and activist during the civil rights and black power movements. I was initially impressed with my good job, and compared to my peers in the South Bronx and Jamaica, Queens, I had a plum job indeed. Shirt, tie, camera, and briefcase was my daily uniform, and I was deployed in the field, only spending one afternoon during the week in the office for my supervisor to review my case files. The company paid my car insurance, which was considerable because of my young age. I was underwritten as an assigned risk. I received a bi-weekly expense account and car allowance. Therefore, each week I received my salary or expense account. My friends in the Bronx and Queens were either envious or happy for me because of my high-profile gig. I felt special and began to believe that I was, in fact, special because of my good job. But then a moral conflict began to develop. I was deployed all over New York City, in the Midtown Business District, Industrial and Commercial District, in all of the boroughs of the city. I operated in residential areas in the boroughs of all economic classes, including the black community ghettos in the Bronx, Harlem, and Brooklyn. I remember to this day a liability case that I invested for trial prep that I later became morally conflicted by. This case was in a slumlord tenement building in Harlem, and the claimant was a top floor resident that fell over the banister to the lobby and was very seriously injured. My assignment was to conduct a thorough investigation, interviewing all the residents in the dwelling with the objective of minimizing the liability of the company. When I came in with the results of my investigation, I was hailed as shrewd and a clever legal investigator. My investigation included eyewitness statements, photos, and historical data that the claimant was a known alcoholic and was in fact drunk when the incident occurred. Other circumstances were documented that in fact minimized the benefits that would accrue to the person that was in fact injured as a result of gross negligence on the part of the slumlord. During these years, I was listening to Malcolm X, who admonished us that based on what we were doing individually, we were either contributing to the problem or contributing to the solution. That single statement from Malcolm in 1964 had a profound impact on me, and a moral conflict emerged that inspired me to question and reject the work that I was doing. In addition to my personal moral conflict that ultimately caused me to join the community organizing staff of the National Welfare Rights Organization and leave the insurance company, I also had a problem with how the company had me deployed. At the end of the day, I didn't like the fact that I was a so-called swingman. In other words, I was deployed in the business and affluent communities until a special liability case occurred in the ghetto, and then sending Gary James on behalf of the company. Ta-da, ta-da. And at the end of the day, I had a problem with the optics of that. This reality became very distasteful and unsettling to me, and I began to make critical analysis of my immediate and broader environment. I found myself in an untenable position and had to determine if I was going to continue as part of the problem or become part of the solution. This personal conflict and story began the backdrop of the nature of my social and political maturity, and it informs my worldview as well. Thusly, I began my colorful career in grassroots community politics and electoral politics. We engaged hands-on from 1965 as a professional community and political organizer in the Democrat Party political orbit until 1980. And from 1980 until 2008, we enjoyed a consequential career as a leader in the grassroots activist wing of the Republican Party. The political season will most likely dominate the public imagination until the end of the general election occurs. And our conversation will most likely continue in the realm of politics here and there during this political years. So the next time we'll begin with the Civil War in the Democrat Party and the juxtaposition it has with the Republican Party in a parallel context. But I remain entertained by political events as they continue to unfold, and I'm looking forward to returning home this evening because there is another debate tonight that I'm looking forward to eating my popcorn.
Late night TV, right?
Yeah. So until when? The 17th, brother?
17th?
Until the 17th.
Gary, I got a quick question for you.
Yeah, come on.
Since it's a political, the presidential election going on now, I just had a question. If you had an idea, or if you knew how they elect the electoral body to choose the president.
You mean the delegates?
The delegates, right?
Okay. Well.
Who are these guys? Where they come from? Where you know? You know what I'm saying?
Well, this is what, see, that very question.
Yes.
Is why we as a community of people need to develop a mastery of the political process.
Yes, sir.
Because there are a lot of things going on that we don't know.
Right.
And the way we are doing politics, we will never know. You see? And the powers that be and political people use terms of art that confuse everybody. And the primary terms of art that is used so loosely is that we are a democracy, the American democracy.
Well, we know that's a whole...
And that is something that proliferates all conversations today, tomorrow, and forever. But the fact is, America is not a democracy. It is a republic. It's a constitutional republic. And there are no guarantees, constitutional guarantees for democracy. So I say all that to say that once we understand that we continue to be sold a bill of goods, we will begin to understand how complicated and sophisticated the United States Republic is, and begin to understand how we need to understand things like delegates in the Electoral College. Now, there are delegates which accrue to a nominee. There are delegates which accrue to a nominee based upon, the election of that state. And they could be, delegates could be determined proportionally. So depending upon the proportion of the people, of the candidates, receive the proportion of votes that they receive, delegates are distributed to them. Now, in some cases, delegates in certain states are based upon winner take all. It's not shared.
Right.
So you have those two type of situations.
under one democracy again.
Yeah, under under the same republic, the same idea.
Yeah, right. Okay.
Now,
okay.
in addition to those two kinds of delegates, you have what is called super delegates. And super delegates are privileged people, a privileged class of people who get to be super delegates. So, for example, Hillary has won about 600 delegates in the course of her winning
Right.
states.
Okay.
Okay. And Bernie has won maybe 400,
Okay.
a couple hundred less than she has. But now, Hillary has super delegates also. So you add the super delegates to the delegates that Clinton earned, and she gets another 400 or 500 delegates.
Okay.
You see, and Bernie has no super delegates. Okay, so you know who has super delegates?
Right.
The kinds of people that have super
money.
delegates. The
Okay.
people who have the bread, the people who have political influence,
Influence.
and the people who are chosen to be super delegates.
Right.
So the point is, the American political process, electoral politics, is a very sophisticated exercise that one has to learn how to maximize the extent to which they can get results, positive results from participating in the process. But we, black folks in particular, we haven't played the game that way. I've always said that we have played the game emotionally. We have an emotional relationship with the Democratic Party, that was with the Republican Party that began in the 19th century, subsequent to emancipation,
Right.
which lasted during the Reconstruction and ended with the Great Compromise, you see. And then after Jim Crow and the modern civil rights movement, then the black community had an emotional relationship with the Democrat Party. And things were achieved on behalf of the black folks in civil rights. But they have now, 40 years later, they have now been pulled back to a large extent. So like voting rights, for example, which everybody's supposed to have voting rights. The voting rights that were achieved in the 1960s, 16 states have removed voting rights, you see. So it's a sleight of hand situation. We get some victories on one hand, but on the other hand, they're not sustainable because we don't know the process. We don't engage the process sufficiently to reinforce or protect the gains that we make.
Right.
Now, one of the reasons why, or one of the examples as to how we don't do politics the way it should be done is because of the word. An example of that is the word leverage, political leverage. Now, you only get things done in politics when you as a community have political leverage. And political leverage can only be achieved when the community is strategically deployed in the political parties, when they are strategically positioned in the Republican Party, and I mean in both political parties, and strategically deployed in both political parties. That way, you are, as a community, are in a position to play one party against the other, because it's understood, because of your level of sophistication and how you deal with the process, that it's understood that, well, if we don't cater to their position, they're going to go over to the other guy, you know. And so it's the leverage game. But the way we've been playing politics, black folk have been playing politics, we're all right now in the Democrat Party. So you can't develop any potential for leverage if you're all in one party.
Right.
That means you can be taken for granted. That means at some points you're out of power. You see?
Yes.
That means that the people who you're in bed with can take you for granted because you ain't going nowhere. And that's what we see right now with this Hillary and Sanders scenario in the Democrat Party. I'm going to deal with the Democrat Party next time we talk about it and discuss some of these things. But the point is, we have to stop playing political checkers and begin to start playing political chess,
Right.
because that is what politics is about, and that is why black folk remain the weakest among all minorities, political minorities in America. And we've been here the longest, and we still outnumber Hispanics, because Hispanic is the language and black is a phenotype, a skin color. And a lot of black folk will be counted with black folk if you don't let them speak. You see?
Yes,
and that's
Yes, sir. Yes,
that's
sir.
how that works.
Right.
But there is a sleight of hand going on with politics. Politics is very sophisticated, and they have the powers that be know this is a republic, but they flaunt this
These words, these
word around to keep us confused.
names.
These
These terms, these
of
terminologies,
art,
yes.
which can be anything. You know, now there are religious democracies. Imagine that.
Yes.
There are social democracies. There are military democracies. There are one-party democracies. So what do we have here? And a democracy in terms of the democratic government requires much more than voting, you see. And so they just promote this idea that voting makes you a democracy
Right.
if you vote for your leaders.
You have a right.
But that's a big
Exactly.
deception.
And that's why I asked you that question, because I know from the time I was coming up in school here on St. Croix, they teach you U.S. history. From the time I know myself, I'm being drilled U.S. history, and from my understanding is that the populist vote does not mean anything. So why
No.
is the people harassing themselves and everybody here fighting about this party and that party? At the end of the day, when you, the citizen, don't have a say in who wins the political, who goes into that house.
Well, see, there is a grand, I mean, there are so many deceptions, there's so many moving parts
Right.
to these deceptions. Like, for example, we talk about political candidates, and I like him or I don't like him.
Right.
I like her or I don't like her. Or I support this issue or I support that issue. I don't support this issue. So But this is the deal. No elected official responds to things or does things that he or she feels. So for a voter to expect that a politician is going to do what you think they're going to do, that's folly. And the whole idea of that expectation is sophomoric. The point is, if you want an elected official to do something, the elected official has to know this guy is associated with these many people. And those many people will make a decision and require the audience of that elected official. But if it's one person, expect this or that to occur because they voted for him or her, it won't happen. It never happens like that. Political officials deal with interest groups, not an individual, except if you're related by some way to it. You know,
a tycoon.
If you're a billionaire tycoon. But all elected officials relate to interest groups. They respond to interest groups. And not simply because you're a gang of people and you're talking loud and you're going to demonstrate on something. That's not going to do anything. Does this group of people contribute to that particular candidate's candidacy, re-election? There are a lot of moving parts to that.
Right.
But we are so accustomed to voting for a person, then going back and chilling out and expecting they're going to do this or that or the other thing. And we don't organize to ensure that they do A, B, C, and D. And then we lose them because we may vote for them to get in, but then they cater to the financial resources that's going to enable them to be re-elected. So they don't give a damn about you. You could talk all that stuff you want, you know. And if you are not in the habit of playing politics 24/7, 365, you're only going to come out to vote. And you don't vote in primaries, you know, and you don't organize your neighborhood, you see, to deal with the issues peculiar to your neighborhood as opposed to another. It's nothing going to happen. And so there's a lot of rap going on, and there are a lot of distractions going on that keep us preoccupied with stuff that is a distraction from dealing with the significant things that could move the community from point A to point B. And then you always have opportunists among all communities. You have opportunists who find themselves or see an opportunity to be in an elevated position. And they want to maintain that position. So therefore, they're not going to do anything that will require them to do more work or to be accountable to you, you know what I'm saying, or some other stuff. So none of that's going to happen. It needs to happen from the bottom up. Things grow from the bottom up.
That's how it is.
And stuff don't happen from the top down. Right. And the expectation that leaders, that political leaders, are going to make some changes on your behalf. That's you know, might as well balk at the moon, because that won't happen. Okay. That's not going to happen. So we got to change how we play the game currently the tail is wagging the dog and people are beefing. We complaining on the radio, complaining to each other on the street, and on Facebook, and social media. But many of these things are intelligence functions,
Right.
that only truncate the extent to which we could be successful, or curtails or minimizes the extent to which we could be successful, because you don't know who's listening to you.
Exactly.
You know who is trying to inspire you to sidetrack you.
Right.
You know, and to make stuff happen, it's not a public exercise. You know, it's an informal exercise
Right.
that you don't do in the public sphere. You know, because your decorum in the public is different from in the private. And there's
Right.
some things that you could say privately that you can't say publicly because you don't want people to misunderstand.
Right. Right.
You see, and so there are a number of things that has to occur on an informal basis, and we need to minimize our propensity to start running off at the mouth, you know, and begin to do some planning and thinking and
Organizing.
research
Yes,
and
sir.
writing and serious thought to the serious situation that we find ourselves in as a community and as a people in the world.
Right.
You know?
Yes, exactly. Because the thing is, I keep coming back to the same position, and I'm glad you said it too, because we are the majority on Earth, but yes, sir, we are the most sufferers on this planet, and it should not be.
It shouldn't be, but we can't get out our own way.
Exactly.
That's the problem.
Exactly.
There's nobody in our own way. There's some systems and structures that have put in place, that have been put
Right.
in place, that we continue to operate, and it keeps us in a circular situation.
Yes, sir.
But we need to be a little bit more discerning of how some of these concepts and ideas that we continue to use and manipulate, how they continue to perpetuate our powerlessness.
Right.
Like this race thing.
Right, exactly.
For example.
Yes.
You know. And so that's a whole nother subject that we'll continue to discuss, you know, as time goes on. But race is one of those real circular conundrums that we can't get around because we don't realize the fallacy in it.
Exactly.
And everything that is a part of modern civilization has structured race.
Yes, from 1492 come forward.
Yeah,
Yes.
you know.
Yes.
And so then we have this hierarchical relationship, you know. And so when we look at things in terms of hierarchical relationships.
Right.
Something is higher and the other thing is
Lower.
lower. When really hierarchical relationships have their place, not in human relations, however, but we are not accustomed to looking at things horizontally.
Right.
And horizontally, things are inherently equal or on same level.
They're harmonious.
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah.
Yes.
And there's no superiority or inferiority
Amongst us.
paradigm
Yes.
among that. But that's a whole nother thing, you know,
Yes,
because
sir.
we
It
have
goes back to the
patriarchal
thought.
societies and all that.
Main thing, the thought got to change first.
Yeah,
and foremost.
absolutely.
So,
That's a major point, because see, we can only think in these vertical terms,
exactly.
and we're not accustomed to thinking horizontally.
Yes.
And if we began thinking horizontally, then we could have better human relationships. Because
Yes,
human relations are not vertical.
They're horizontal.
but they set up
vertical.
vertically,
Yes, sir.
so we could be at the bottom.
Control, divide and control, you know. All right, Gary, as usual, that has been a pleasure to have
Thanks,
you.
man.
Have you amongst us and amongst
Yeah.
the house to spread that wisdom and that knowledge, you know.
Yeah, well, you know, I enjoy rolling with you, brothers.
Yes, sir, and I enjoy rolling with the eye.
All right, man. So that was Virgin Islands author Gary James. Once again, I want to thank you for coming out to the studio again and blessing us with some more knowledge. With the whole political scene and this, that, and the other. It's all important, and we look forward to seeing Gary again on March 17th, 8 p.m. Again, his conversation will continue. And any final words, Soup?
Thank you again, Gary. Everybody have a wonderful night. Rastafari live, one perfect love.
Yeah, and we like to say one perfect love is our prayers and his blessings. When you put it all together, you get one perfect love, man. So on that note, we're out. We'll see you guys later. Have a good evening. Peace.